Mr. Right's going to come along and, you know, gallop up on his horse and whisk you off to the castle and keep you in a fabulous, you know, sort of lifestyle. And we know from research that still an incredible amount of young women still expect that that's going to happen. The reality is that only 1 in every 12 women can expect for someone else to provide for them financially. Now, you don't want to panic. It doesn't mean that only 1 in 12 is going to partner, because whenever I say that, everyone gets absolutely paranoid that there's no Mr. Right. What it means is that you could very well be partnered, but your partner isn't able to provide for you, you know, at a level that maybe you would like or is required. So it's very dangerous to actually take the view that, well, someone else will provide for you because it's less likely rather than more likely. So that's the first mindset that we have, that, you know, it's not my responsibility, I don't have to worry about it. And then the other thing is that we just don't talk about money. And yet when you think about it, how much or how many things do young women learn from their mothers? You know, we cook a roast a certain way, we do the washing a certain way, we iron the whatever a certain way. You know, we do things following the patterns that our mothers set. So the fact that there's no discussion about money makes it very hard for us to learn those skills. And not only do we not talk about that with our mothers, but we also don't talk about it with our peers and our friends. We might talk about what we bought, new shoes we've got, or a brand new phone, but we don't ever say, look, you seem to manage your money really well. Can you share some of your knowledge with me? Because there's a fear as soon as we start to talk about money in that context that we're going to be judged or we're going to be found lacking. So just this lack of discussion in general about money, and the more you don't talk about it, the more almost it becomes a taboo. So it just becomes a bigger and bigger hurdle. Look, the credit trap is enormous, and particularly for the Gen Y generation, because they've grown up in a world where there's always been good employment. They've never even seen or heard what a recession is. I mean, that's something that happened in the old days. So they've grown up in this world where there has been, I guess, more of a sense of abundance. Many of them now live at home. The average age for kids to move out now is 29. So if you're living at home, not paying rent, on a good salary, not worried about employment, you know, you're in a I guess, a good situation where you can spend and have a lot of nice stuff. You've also then got the peer pressure of, you know, everyone wants to be like everyone else. So if everyone's got the latest mobile phone or that particular handbag or going on a holiday to that particular place, you know, you will tend to follow suit. The thing to also remember is that the world is a very different place. So I still remember when my parents got the first bank card in the mailbox, and there was absolutely shock and horror that lending institutions could randomly send out these credit cards to people. It was just, you know, it was like the world was going to end. But credit now is an everyday thing. So also the messages that young people hear is credit is bad, you shouldn't have credit. But hang on, mum and dad, I live in a world where credit is commonplace. So rather than saying don't do credit, it's about saying how do you manage it. Things like, take the mobile phone for example. A mobile phone for a young person is like another limb. You could no more survive without your mobile phone than you could cut off one of your hands and survive. So you need to recognise that this is a tool that you are going to use every day, all day, for a variety of things. So no matter how hard you try, the $35 plan just isn't going to work. So what happens is that you try and you know, you tell yourself, okay, well, I can get on the $35 plan, and then you end up paying an exorbitant amount for all those extra calls and you know, options over and above that. So you're better off saying, look, I should just be on the $75 plan or even the $100 plan, because that way I'm getting absolute fabulous value for the $75 that I'm going to spend. So it's about really recognising that how we do things these days is very different, and some of the messages that the parents or grandparents are, I guess, sending down to the younger generation, it's not working, because the messages aren't relevant for today. So for young people, it's about saying credit is there, you are going to use credit, how can we show you to use credit in a way that will be beneficial for you rather than detrimental to you. The really big thing is to get off to a good start. I think what happens is that you're a student and you try and stretch the dollars and you can eke, $5 value out of every dollar that you have. Then it's like you get a job, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm not a student. And the first thing that I find happens is, well, I'm going to buy a new wardrobe because, I've got a new job and that's justifiable. And, I'm sick of wearing the same thing, which I have as a student. Then there's, well, I'm entitled to have a holiday because, I've really been struggling as a student. And then and I'm entitled to have a few nice things. And what you find is that you've gone very, very quickly from being a student who was able to manage really quite well on a finite amount of income on the slippery slide to suddenly several credit cards and quite a bit of debt. So before, there's a window of opportunity before you step on that slippery slide that you can actually say, all right, let's put some structure in place. I've just got this job. I'm going to automatically have 10 or 15% siphoned off. I'm going to tell my pay office to put 10 or 15% into a bank account that's now going to be saved, because I'm not used to having that money. So if you're going, say, from a salary of maybe $10,000 or $15,000 a student to $40,000 working, if you siphon off, $5,000, $10,000, you've still got a hugely, higher level of income than what you had prior. So getting that structure and getting some of that money starting to be there for the longer term. And when I say siphoned off, I mean in an account that doesn't have an ATM card, isn't too readily accessible, maybe even at a separate institution to where you do the majority of your banking. So it's money that's being parked away for your future. Because really, what you do in that first 10 years of your working life is going to determine what the rest of your financial life looks like. And just getting the right structure and order in place in those first years, it's amazing how much difference it actually makes.